Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Matters of Faith, the radio show. Matters of Faith is a show designed to bring issues of interest to you, the listening and viewing audience, that will put a biblical perspective on everyday issues. I am your host, the Reverend Dr. J. Lauren Russell, and it is my job to engage you in stimulating dialogue that's inspiring, encouraging, and motivating, dialogue and conversations that will help you build your determination, your commitment, and your character, conversations that will help you keep the faith. Everyone born of God overcomes the world. This is the victory that has overcome the world, even our faith. 1 John chapter 5, verse 4. And now, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, without further ado, it is time for Matters of Faith, the radio show. It's Monday. It's October 27th. It's 8 o'clock. And it's time for Matters of Faith, the radio show. I am your host and executive producer, Reverend Dr. J. Lauren Russell. Tonight we're talking about peace. Be still. We're broadcasting live on our Matters of Faith YouTube channel, our Matters of Faith and J. Lauren Russell Facebook groups. And tonight our very special guest returning for yet another time is Dr. Al Sutton, internist, internal medicine doctor. So make sure you telephone and tell a friend they don't want to miss this broadcast tonight. Peace. Be still. Matters of Faith family, please support our sponsors and advertisers financially by using their services. Support those who support those things that are being a blessing to you. The JLR Company and J. Lauren R. Consulting LLC for all of your church financial consulting needs. Workshops and seminars, church evaluations. We do property development. We do church loans. We do financial workshops and literacy from a biblical perspective. JLORENR at JLR.LLC. That's JLORENR at JLR.LLC. Or give us a call, 718-328-8096. 718-328-8096. It's not about the castle. It's about the kingdom. Matters of Faith, the book. The hard copy can be obtained by using our Zelle account. That's JLORENR at JLR.LLC. The book costs $24.15. You can also send or check a money order to the JLR Company, Post Office Box 301, New York, New York, 10035. That's the JLR Company, Post Office Box 301, New York, New York, 10035. You can also get it as an ebook. If you get it as an ebook, there's no shipping and no handling, so the book will be $20. You get it at www.smashwords.com/view/993177. smashwords.com/books/view/993177. Check out the Eat Okra app for all black-owned restaurants all over the nation. That's right, Eat Okra. Professional, compassionate, and family-friendly services in time of bereavement. John J. Fox & Sons Incorporated Funeral Services have been proudly serving the Bronx community for 125 years. If you're in need, give them a call. They're family-friendly, they're compassionate, they're professional. 718-733-9114. When you're in need, John J. Fox & Sons. 718-733-9114. Your focus and your attention on your business is profitability. Your church is on spiritual excellence. But let E.G. Edwards and Associates handle your accounting and taxation needs with competence and professional excellence. Financial Solutions is just a phone call away. 718-949-5181. 718-949-5181. E.G. Edwards and Associates are here to help. Just dial 718-949-5181. And get your subscription to Better Mag magazine today. A 2-year subscription is only $27.50. That's $27.50. Go to www.abettermag.com. That's www.abettermag.com. And lastly, please subscribe, like, and share our Matters of Faith YouTube channel. That's subscribe, like, and share the Matters of Faith YouTube channel. And while you're at it, subscribe, please, ma'am, please, sir, to mattersoffaith.blog. That's mattersoffaith.blog. You will get a notification every time one of our articles is published. mattersoffaith.blog. Matters of Faith family, I'm so excited. The Matters of Faith column has its own base, mattersoffaith.blog. So please, ma'am, please, sir, go to mattersoffaith.blog. When you get there, open the devotional. Scroll down to the bottom of the page. You'll see the subscribe button. Click it. Put your email address in, and you will be notified every time we publish. Remember, mattersoffaith.blog. Open the devotional. Go down to the button that says subscribe. Click it. Put your email address in, and you will be notified of everything we publish. Thank you so much. You know, I love you. There's nothing you can do about it, so get used to it. We've got a big discount. 50% off of the ebook Matters of Faith. Matters of Faith. We've got a big discount. 50% off of the ebook Matters of Faith, the book. If you use the coupon UDATE. www.smashwords.com/books/view/993177. There is a big 50% discount for the ebook if you use the coupon UDATE. www.smashwords.com/books/view/993177. Don't miss the sale. And now the article, Peace Be Still. That article can be found in my link, mattersoffaith.blog. Make sure you subscribe to mattersoffaith.blog. In fact, do it right now. It can also be found in the Yonkers Insider, www.yonkersinsider.blogspot.com. The column is carried in Better Mag magazine, www.abettermag.com, www.abettermag.com, and it's also carried in the Positive Community magazine, www.thepositivecommunity.com. That's www.thepositivecommunity.com. Oh, the column is also carried in Pamela's Big Heart newsletter. Peace be still. Mark chapter 4, verses 25 through 31, New King James Version. On the same day when evening had come, he said to them, "Let us cross over to the other side." Now when they had left the multitude, they took him along in the boat as he was, and other little boats also were with them. And a great windstorm arose, and the waves beat into the boat, so that it was already filling. But he was in the stern, asleep on a pillow. And they awake him and said to him, "Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing?" Then he arose and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, "Peace, be still." And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. But he said to them, "Why are you so fearful? How is it that you have no faith?" And they feared exceedingly and said to one another, "Who can this be, that even the wind and the sea obey him?" Peace, be still. During my quiet time with the Lord in the mornings, as I read and study from the Holy Writ, recite scriptures, meditate, pray, and exercise, I hear the voice of the Lord in holistic fashion. Each aspect of worship serves in its own unique way and reveals his presence and quiets the storms in my spirit and my life. During those quiet moments, when his voice is clear, his presence is felt, and the storms cease, then I experience an overwhelming warmth in my heart. The situations in my life may not change, but the calm that envelops me gives me a sense of peace and inner assurance that everything is going to be just fine. It's hard to explain, since it isn't always logical, but in those still, quiet moments, his voice whispers, and I can hear him clearly saying, "Peace, be still." Life always has storms, one that is past, one that is happening right now, or one that is coming. When the storm arose on the Sea of Galilee, his disciples, fearful and scared, cried out, "Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing?" When you do not know the one who can calm raging storms with a word, you also don't know the God who can just as easily calm the storms in your life with the same words, "Peace, be still." Astonished and amazed, His disciples asked, "Who can this be that even the wind and the sea obey him?" What they did not know was that the peace of God is the key to making it through a storm. That peace is found in the pages of the Bible, not deeply buried in some secret place that you need a bulldozer or a pickaxe to find. You don't have to be a rocket scientist or a college graduate. Just trust in the one who looked at the storm, spoke to the winds, and calmed the raging sea. If you don't have a time that you dedicate to spend with Him, a time when it's just you and God, you are missing the peace that only He can give, and you will never know the kind of peace, what the Bible calls the shalom peace, that can weather any storm, even ferocious storms like the disciples experienced. Truly, it is in those still, quiet moments that you can hear His voice whisper, speaking clearly to the storms in your life, saying, "Peace, be still, be blessed." Now, here's my question tonight. If you were in a severe storm, a tornado, maybe a hurricane, a physical, financial, or medical crisis, and you went to the Creator of all that is, all that was, and all that there will ever be, and found Him asleep, what would you do? Let me ask that question again. If you were in a severe storm, a tornado, maybe a hurricane, a physical, financial, or medical crisis, and you went to the Creator of all that is, all that was, and all that there will ever be, and found Him asleep, what would you do? Family, this really gives me a great deal of pleasure, more than you know right now, but you'll understand it better by and by. Born in Easley, South Carolina, Dr. Sutton grew up in Pickens, South Carolina. Like so many, he spent a lot of his youth just trying to figure out what to do and where he belonged in life. While struggling with this through his teen years, he was blessed to have met his father figure and mentor, the late but great Reverend Dr. Julius Scipio. Through that relationship, Dr. Scipio inspired and made him believe he could achieve and do anything in life. His educational journey started at Greenville Tech College, then to the College of Charleston in Charleston, South Carolina. It was there that he had another transformative experience when he became a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. He then went on to earn his Bachelor's of Science degree from the University of South Carolina. Remembering that he could achieve and do anything he put his mind to, Al set his sights on and attended medical school at the American University of Antigua in the West Indies. He subsequently transferred to Windsor University School of Medicine and St. Kitts, which is also in the West Indies, where he completed and earned a medical doctorate degree. He acquired the majority of his medical training at Joseph N. Francis General Hospital in St. Kitts before returning to the States and continuing his training at Grady Hospital in Atlanta, Georgia, a level 1 trauma center. Dr. Sutton currently resides in San Juan, Puerto Rico, where he works as an internal medicine physician. Matters of Faith family, would you help me tonight to welcome this young man who is a dear friend of mine, like my own nephew, Dr. Al Sutton. Now you can turn your video on. Good evening, sir. And unmute yourself too so that we can hear you. Praise the Lord.
Can you
Hallelujah.
hear me, brother? How you
I
doing,
can
man?
hear you fine. I'm glad. I'm excited. I'm glad to see you. Thank you for
Thank you.
taking time out of your, I know, extremely busy schedule to be with us tonight. So
Thank
listen,
you.
let me start by doing this, and then we'll get into everything else.
Okay.
I read some of your bio. They know some things about you, but tell us something about you that we don't know and we really should know.
Oh, wow, man. That's a good one. You already touched bases on the Pickens part, but I guess the thing I would say about me is what I encourage everybody tonight is just the word called self-belief. Self-belief is important because you have a lot of people who basically can be negative or not see a vision that God has given you. But self belief is that belief that basically, if it's something that's given to you, be a dream by God or whatever it may be, that's for you. And so from there, go for it. You know, I think again, that's something I think that everybody should really tap into. I think a lot of us are held back by our own limited self belief. So I think it wasn't until I met Dr. Scipio that I had that because again, coming from a small town is I never knew or seen anybody who was adopted at that time. So to me, to have that vision is just, it wasn't just a dream. It
Mm.
was given to me by God, but it was a limited belief that held me back. But ultimately, meeting Reverend Scipio propelling me forward. I think that's the biggest thing of it all. You know, nobody's really born great. It's just we have to tap into that, and then from there, self belief and discipline and working hard, that takes you pretty much anywhere you need to go.
Got you. Got you. Got you. Got you. I was actually asking you because I wanted you to tell me something that about you, that we don't know.
Oh wow, okay. So
Give me
another thing I
something
guess
that we
somebody
don't know
needs to
about
know
you.
is I've always thought I would be a grandfather by the age of 60, but I actually have two grandkids now. So
Ah,
yeah,
really?
I
Now,
got
see, I
yeah.
didn't know that.
Yeah. So Elam, my grandson, is actually 2 years old, and Lily, this newborn, right at 6 months now. So
Wow. Awesome. Awesome. Congratulations,
thank you, man.
Pop,
Yes, sir.
Granddad.
I never thought that title would happen so early, but thank you,
Well,
man.
here it is. Here it is. Here it
Yes, sir.
is.
Yes,
I'm gonna
sir.
stop this share so we don't need to see that anymore. And we're gonna talk. We're gonna talk. I'm so glad to see him. Thank you. I really appreciate your being with us tonight. This is
Thank
really a
you.
good thing. And I think because I never know. And when we're talking about you coming on, I never know what I'm going to write because I always wait for the Lord to tell me what it is that He wants me to say, what His people need to hear. And so tonight we're talking about peace. Be still. And so I think that's really consistent with who you are and what you told us about self-belief
Mm.
and understanding, really accepting the vision that the Lord has for you, and understanding that in some instances you must go through the storm because some of the lessons that you need in order for you to become, in order for you to understand, in order for you to receive the vision, you have to go through the storm. And you have to understand that there is a peace even in the midst of the storm that's available to you as well. But unless you go through the storm, oftentimes we don't realize what it is that God has in store for us or just how strong we actually are.
Well said, 100%, Dr. Lauren. I couldn't have said it better. So, for me, when you look at the word peace, to me, it's proper to define it. But again, it can be in so many ways. Everybody can look at peace from whatever aspect. But peace as a
Mhm.
whole is basically a multifaceted. It encompasses both the external absence of conflict and internal state of tranquility. And just to piggyback off what you said, it's either we're uh, in a storm, going through a storm, or coming out of one. There's a Latin term called amor fati. So that's AMORFATI. And it kind of speaks similar to that. So basically, that's the practice of accepting, embracing everything that has happened, is currently happening, or is yet to happen. So it kind of ties into what you said. So again, that word is amor fati. And so again, is peace is just the overall state that ultimately encompasses external conflicts as well as dealing with internal state of tranquility. So it's a balance.
I like that. I like that. I like that. Amor fati. Amor fati. I like that word. I'm gonna have to circle it because I'm gonna use that one again.
Oh, feel free,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, yeah, people gonna hear that one again. I like that. I like that. I,
Yes,
and
sir.
I like etymology. I like words. I like the way words, where they come from and what they mean and all of that kind of stuff. I never did a speech contest or a spelling contest, but I would like to do that because I like etymology. I like the word. I like words.
Absolutely.
So interesting, but you said something. In fact, I wanted to talk a minute about some of the things that were going on with you because you're now, and I know I read this in the bio, so y'all listening, right? He lives in Puerto Rico. You speak Spanish?
Un poquito. So
Un
habla
poquito.
despacio, por favor. Sí.
Oh,
So
okay.
despacio, por
Tú también, tú también.
favor.
Now it's
Sí.
interesting, right? It's interesting that you didn't say poco. You said poquito. You said
Poquito, sí.
you said un poquito, which means really little.
Really
Poco
low.
means a little, man. I can get through.
Little
But
seeds.
poquito means like tiny, tiny.
Tiny, tiny, absolutely. You know, man, I tell you, it's different because when you look at Puerto Rican Spanish, Dominican Spanish, you know, Colombian Spanish, they all have different variations, much like coming from the South versus the
Mhm.
North, in different kind of, in essence, slang. So some of the words, you know, but it's like, okay, I don't understand that one. So speak slowly, please. So habla despacio, por favor.
Oh, you know the same words I do.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So it's been a journey, man. But I tell you, I wouldn't trade anything for the world. Lauren from Dr. Lauren is coming from South Carolina, being able to ultimately move on to Charleston, and then later on, you know, going to Antigua and later St. Kitts to all over. It's been a great journey for me, and I encourage everybody to travel to see the world. I hate when everybody say it's so dangerous in all these different places. It's the media portrayal of a lot of different things. You can go to Atlanta and take a turn here and there, and you're in the hood. You know what I'm saying? So anywhere you go is going to have that element. But as long as you go and treat people with dignity and respect, most people have no intentions to harm you for the most part.
Well, that's true. I mean, people, it's like those who have intent to maim and to harm, they're gonna have intent to maim and to harm no matter where you
No,
go.
no matter where
'Cause
you
they are,
go,
they are everywhere. And in
absolutely.
fact, you have more of them outside of quote unquote the hood than you do in the hood.
100%. And I tell you, one thing I love about the Latin culture is they're very inviting and friendly, much like we are as African
Mhm.
Americans. You know, tango hombre, if you're hungry, just go knock on somebody's door, they'll feed you, you know?
Mhm.
And I hate the word poverty because, again, people with less, they are much happier and they're very giving. And I
Mhm.
wish that's to me what the world was more of. You know, I think we all have something to offer, something to give. It doesn't necessarily have to be money. It could be time. It could be Most High God putting you in the right place at the right time. You know,
Mhm.
but we'll get into those things a little bit more. But yeah, it's a lot to go into it. But one thing I wanted to kind of be able to start off with, if possible, is when you look at peace. Ultimately, we got to talk about balance, and with balance, it goes into overall what are we as human beings, right? And so, as human beings, there's three parts to us, which is mind, body, and spirit. The mind being the psyche, the body being the physical, and the spirituality is our relationship with God and our purpose on this earth. So when you look at the spirit, ultimately, why are we here? So I always tell people August 31st, 1975 dash. And that dash is what I'm currently living right now. That's my story. That's my journey. And what you're dealing with in life is what you want to break up into sentences, paragraph, or either chapters. And ultimately, you got to know what's time to close and move on from those things to give yourself that peace, i.e., balance. And through that is how we ultimately find peace, if that makes sense. So when you look at the whole of everything, you start with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And so again, I say that again, that's Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which starts with self-actualization. So I didn't organize these, just going off of what Maslow's hierarchy of needs is. So self-actualization is basically this desire of being the best self. Then you go from esteem, which is ultimately self-love and self-respect, which everybody should have, because if you don't have self-love and self-respect, you can't have boundaries. If you can't have boundaries, you pretty much are going to be in a whirlwind of a lot of things. Next, you move on to belongings and love, and that starts with family and friends and going into our religious affiliations. And then we look at safety needs, which is our physiological needs. Our physiological needs broken into water, food, shelter, and clothes. So that's the whole totality of things. So now when you look at peace, it's bringing everything together as a whole. And then from there, we can expand further.
I think you're absolutely right. Maslow had this interesting concept, this way of saying, if the first thing that we do is so like survival of the fittest.
Hmm.
You have to take care of your basic needs.
Absolutely.
You have to be able to eat. You have to be able to drink. You have to be able to provide for your basic needs.
Hmm.
Then ultimately you want to get to that place of self-actualization where you become the person that you were intended to be before the beginning of time, before anything was created. The Lord knew that you were coming, that you would be here, and he knew you would be here now. And so he had a plan for you, and that plan included you becoming the person that he wants you to be. And interestingly enough, even in Maslow's theory, it's not the destination that's most important, it's the journey.
And that's what a lot of people don't realize. Very well said.
Yeah, because in the journey, right, you're gonna have, I don't care who you are, I don't care what you got, I don't care you're gonna have some storms in your life. No doubt about it. You're gonna have
Also,
storms. And
them
some of those
waters.
storms are gonna be devastating.
Mm-hmm.
Some of those storms are gonna be mild. Some of those storms are gonna be, I mean, listen, right now we're looking and we're praying for currently the country of Jamaica because they're getting ready buckling down for a major storm. It's predicted to be the worst storm that they've ever experienced since they've been measuring storms. Hurricane, with 165-mile-an-hour winds. It's only moving at 3 miles an hour. So it's moving very, very slowly. So it has devastation in its winds, if you will. And so we're praying for them. And it leaves there is headed for some other islands as well. So we're praying for them. But at the same time, we know that sometimes the storms bring out things that you would never be able to get to unless it went through the storm. I mean, there's no telling what riches might come out of the earth once the storm has passed over. And some people who have made it through, and we're praying that all of them make it through, but they will be better for the experience. Because storms don't make you into anything. They bring out the best that's in you. Whether it's a personal, whether it's financial, whether it's medical, and you're in the medical field, you're an internist, so you see that all the time. But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes when persons go through difficult times and they have medical issues, it's not there to tear them down, but actually they become stronger as a result of it. And not just, I mean, physically they may be suffering, but emotionally and spiritually, and as a person, they can actually grow and become during that process. You can speak to that because
Oh, yeah.
that's one of the things I see all the time. It's like, listen, you go to the hospital and you know, maybe you're not there for your own sake, but maybe you're there to pray and to give confidence and to give encouragement to some of the doctors and the medical staff that's there in the hospital who might be at their wits' end.
Absolutely, and well said. For me, is you just take the word pain as a whole, right? So pain can be looked at in a lot of different things. I look at pain like the caution light on a vehicle, right? So when
Mhm.
that caution light on the vehicle comes on, you won't want to take a trip from New York to South Carolina with a caution light on your vehicle. You want to basically get that thing checked out. But what happens a lot of time, pain goes there. People try to fight through, and it's not a problem with that. But pain is a method to let us know that something's going wrong and to be basically a signal to kind of check to see what's happening. But also, pain is a catalyst for growth as well. So
Mm.
it's like going to the gym is when you do biceps, you do chest or whatever, that muscle hurt is pain. But over time, that's going to be an opportunity for growth. And I think to me, that's what happens along that life journey is we have to experience pain. We have to go through growth to ultimately reach a level of transformation. And we're placed on this earth for a reason. So again, it goes back to a question I always like to ask a lot of people. Are we human beings on a spiritual journey or are we spiritual beings on a human journey? And so now, once you understand, like Dr. Lawrence said, we're all on the journey. And the interesting thing about me, I always thought with life, I'm going to just reach a certain point in my life and everything's going to be smooth sailing. But it's not that way at all. It's
Now,
constantly something.
slow down for a second.
Mhm.
That's interesting, right? Because
Yep.
here you are, and I love that. I'm so glad you brought that up. Here you are, a medical doctor, school, graduated, awarded, went through the the residency. Now you are an internist. You are a doctor. And it's interesting because the person that you were before, you're still that same guy.
100%. 100%. And I tell you, Dr. Lawrence, that's why I love Pickens and Easley so much because even though it's Dr. Sutton, I love to go home sometime and just be squeak as well. And
Yeah,
a lot of
yeah.
people don't know that, but it feels good to have a sense of normalcy because, like I was talking to my lady friend the other night after work, is after work I like to go to the pier and just kind of just watch the sunset and just kind of
Mm.
unwind. And I was just really tired this day, and I seen one of the patients walking, and I was hoping she wasn't going to stop. I know that might sound wrong, but she was a family member, not the actual patient, but a family member of the patient.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
I can tell she was sad, and she said, "Hey, how you doing?" I said, "I'm good, and how are you?" And it just went from there. So what I thought was going to be a night for me just to be on my own and just kind of unwind, this person was just there and she needed someone and she started crying and basically had to vent stuff she was going on with her husband and how mean he was and everything. And like I had to base a reminder, as men, the realization is we don't have that safety net to cry or to vent to people for the most part. We got a close set of friends that we can ultimately go to and talk to if we need, but the world, as they say, man up for us if we start to cry. But not being sexual, but if a woman stops to cry, the world will basically stop and everybody say, "Ma'am, are you okay?" But if a guy does that, he's like, "Hey, what's going on with you, man? Let's move out of the way or something." So it's kind of that harsh reality. So for this particular night, even though I'm going through something, I had to set aside my own issues to basically deal with what a person needed. And so that particular time and moment, she had to cry, she had to vent because she was heavily burdened. And
Mm.
so again, I got to step out of my way and think, okay, maybe God wanted you to go there because He needed you to be there for somebody else, right? It's not so much about you being tired and you need your alone time. You can get that another time, but you need to be here, right? And the same thing, just recently I flew home to South Carolina, and for me, when I go on the airplane, I want to put my my AirPods in and just kind of just watch one of the movies or something. But the lady beside me kept talking, so I was like, "Let me just take them out." So she's gonna stop, and she had to proceed to say, "Hey, how you doing?" and so forth and so on. What do you do for a career? So I tell her, "Hey, Doc, I got this going on." And in the beginning, I used to kind of get irritated by it, but I just started to learn that, hey, this is what God has put you here for. So
Mm.
just because you want to be this way, it doesn't be this way because you're actually working. It's what I need you to be all the time. And you're placed in this position for whatever reason for somebody who's going through something that you can possibly assist with. And that's why I started looking at life as this journey isn't about me. It's fulfilling God's destiny, it's fulfilling God's work. And again, is that person might be having the worst time, but you placed there to be a person that can be a listener. Not a lot of people are going to go to counseling or whatever, but you can be that person that can give them a kind of outlet just to be able to vent and talk. And a lot of time that basically goes a long way. And so that's why I just basically want to tell people tonight is make sure you take care of that mental health as well. Make sure you take care of others and be kind to others because we're all dealing with something in some form. So outside looking in, people think that I got my stuff together, but just recently, Dr. Lauren knows I went through probably the hardest time of my life because my mother was passing, right? And I'm having to keep it together for myself, for her, and everybody else, and literally working every day while waiting on phone calls. And on a particular Wednesday, I had to make one of the hardest decisions ever was removing her from mechanical ventilation, which I knew at that time pretty much spelled the end of her life. And I went back and forth so much and just trying to figure out what is the best way. But then I stepped out and thought, okay, I know as a son as well as a physician, this is going to be best course of action. But we have the human element that's going to supersede a lot of things because feelings and emotions are something that can take us in a lot of different ways. And that's my mother. And to make that call to say take her off life support was hands down the most difficult decision ever. And so what I tell people is that everything that glitters isn't gold, and everybody's dealing with something. So be kind, be present, and be there for each other and love one another.
I just finished a class. I started a chaplaincy a few years ago. I'm the chief and we're doing it, but 16 of my chaplains went through a mental health first aid certification course. We're now certified nationally
Wow,
as mental health first aid responders.
awesome.
And you just really put into reality what we've learned, and that is a acronym ALGE. ALGE means approach, listen, give, encourage, and encourage. So let me explain those, and let me tell you the person that sat next to you on that plane, right? The woman who approached you on the dock. Approach, assess for risk of suicide or harm or self hurt.
Hmm.
If that's not there, then you listen non judgmentally, right?
Absolutely.
So that you can hear what they're actually saying. And then you give reassurance and information. Like you told the young lady, sometimes you have a comfort in being able to cry, to being able to share this, and you allowed her an opportunity of free space to give. And then you encouraged her. by saying, look, there's all kinds of help that you can get for this. And sometimes if it's professional and she's talking to you as a professional, even though you're not a mental health professional in that instance, but you are a medical doctor, you are able to give us some encouragement and then self-help and other support strategies to help her to get through this process. You did the same thing on the plane. What am
Absolutely.
I saying here? I'm saying that, when you are going through a storm, somebody, if especially if you are someone who has faith, someone will stop and say, peace, be still,
Hmm.
peace. Because that's the key, right? We sometimes act in the capacity of the peace bringer. We bring the peace.
Absolutely.
Sometimes we're the ones to receive the peace, and then other times we're the ones who bring it. So, who you are at the moment will depend upon the circumstance and the situation. But are you ready? Are you ready to give support or to receive the support and let the peace that only God can provide come into your life? Or will you share it with others so that it can come into their lives?
100%, and that goes back to what I was saying before. Is we place here for a reason. So what is that reason? And so again, let's step outside of ourselves and be there for others. So again,
Mhm.
for me is when I was in manufacturing before I went back to school, I had a job there, Dr. Lauren, where I clock in at 11 at night and get off at 7 in the morning. I ain't got to deal with work no more. When I get off for that weekend, I'm good until the weekend is over, and then I go back and clock in 11, and I'm back to work. But now that doesn't afford that opportunity anymore. No
Yes.
matter what, regardless of what I want, is Doctor Sutton
Hmm.
24/7. And actually, I finally embraced that because again, as I try to get those alone time moments, but at the same time is allow God to be able to use you for whatever reason He need to use you. So whether it be you being on an airplane wanting to watch a movie, but that person need to talk and vent, or whether it be you trying to take a walk on a pier and that woman coming to you. And I also try to shed some light to her too, with her and how she said her husband was being mean and nasty and all those
Hmm.
things. And
Hmm.
like I told her, as men, you got to understand is he's now reduced to a role to where he goes from a person who can care for himself, do for himself, provide for himself, and so forth and so on, to you having to pretty much having to wipe and clean him. So, those are things again is what he's doing isn't right. It's called again transfer of emotions. And
Hmm.
so again, just have a little bit of grace, but at the same time, when he gets a little bit out of control, come out here and take some fresh air in and take a moment because you do have healthcare professionals, that nurses, aides, and all that can attend to him. So take that moment when he stresses you too much to walk away from the situation, and that's what we need to do from life. Sometimes
Hmm.
is how I tell people in life is when I look at life, I look at it from how I would be trying to advise my son
Hmm.
and in the best situation, and also don't make life difficult. How I look at life is how a computer program is. Computers operate what's known as a binary system. That's binary, binary, and that what that is a set of zeros and ones. As complicated as the computers we use are, they basically function off a series of binaries, right? Which is zeros and ones. How I transferred it in our life is a set of yeses and nos. Don't complicate life. Life is either yes or it's either no. Don't make it difficult. And so am I going to get up and go to church today? It's a yes or no. Am I going to get up and go to work today? Yes or no. Am I going to eat right today? Yes or no. And so just keep life simple. I don't always want to do what I want to do, but I got to do what I have to do. And that's what, again, that's the difference between motivation and discipline. You're not going to necessarily all be motivated, but you have to be disciplined to do what you say you're going to do. So if you say you're going to go to church Sunday, unless you just in a dire situation, you got to go, right? If you're going to go help a friend, you're going to help a family, you're going to do something, it's either yes or no. But if you give your word, try to do that. So again, that computer works and operates what we consider very difficult, but it's through binary, right? Zeros and ones sequences. So transfer that as humans to a series of yeses and nos, and don't overcomplicate life. And now, if you can fix things in life, by all means, fix that. But if you can't, you have to learn to be able to pray about things and be able to move forward. I think a lot of things with humans, what happens is we know the right and wrong. We know the yeses and nos, but
Hmm.
it's that thing that we operate off called that ego. And that ego is one of the things that get us into most of the trouble. It's one of those things that hold on to things through, i.e., emotional attachments through codependencies and stuff like that. So you get into the psyche, into the mental. A lot of us, even though we have a physiological age, in my case, my physiological age is 50. What is my mental age? And that's, we have two ages actually in life. And in essence, you can have that little boy and that little girl who are actually in a 50-year-old body, but then they're still operating on the capacities of that little boy and that little girl off of past traumas that they necessarily never healed from. And through that unresolved traumas, now becomes self-sabotage as they get older. And so those are things that we got to deep dive into is who are we as a whole? And again, it's that three-part being: mind, body, spirit. So that mind, you got to keep it mentally sharp. You got to do the right things. You have to give yourself the proper rest. And by rest, again, that's 6 to 8 hours. Anything under 8 hours is insufficient sleep. But ideally 6 to 8 hours minimum. And from there, body, you got to be working out 3 to 4 times a week. And then from there, spiritual, you got to go and serve and worship and fellowship and be around humans. That's why when you look at COVID, you had some of the most depressed people because we're designed to be amongst each other, interact amongst each other. And that's the one thing that I do hope our churches get back to. I know you guys talked about the attendance of churches and stuff, but are we going out into the community to see what we can do for the people, right? In terms of not money, but brother, how you been? Just that simple conversation sometimes. Hearts are heavy, and I tell you, and I want to tell everybody now is I'm a man who proud to have my stuff together, and I've always been that way since I was 18 years old. But a couple of months ago, my mom passed away March the 28th. From there, from the time I made the phone call on that Wednesday to going back to where she died in Chattanooga, Tennessee, to ultimately her passing, all that stuff. I'm flying back and forth between Puerto Rico and working, doing all these things. And even after her death, is right back in the routine. And it wasn't until I had some days off and I was on the beach walking, a beautiful day. And I don't know what it was that day. I just felt the worst I've ever felt in a long time. And when I walked, I just bawled out crying. And that was the first time I realized I never actually embraced. I never felt what I needed to feel. I never mourned. I never had that proper moment to be able to really mourn my mother. And what I'm saying is that that was the most freeing time just to let that all out, and just have a talk with God and just say, hey, I'm hurting right now. I need you. And that to me was just a burden lifted off my chest. And that's what I'm saying is for men and women out there, especially men, we have that hard exterior where, I'm hard, I'm tough. I don't need nobody, but in essence, we all need somebody.
Absolutely. Well, you really said a lot. You really covered a lot too. March 28th, I remember that. And for those of you who don't know, Al and I are pretty close. Al is, he and my nephew grew up together. More than that, his mother and I kind of grew up together. So I've known Al before he was born,
Absolutely.
And so this is a wonderful thing. And so he talked about a number of things I really want you to get. The binary piece, yes or no. Don't complicate life. Life is not that difficult. We complicate it. We make it difficult. We think about, I was talking with someone last night, names not mentioned, and they were talking to me about a situation that was going on and or that was presenting itself. Let me put it that way. It's not yet happened, but there's a lot of worry going on about what's going to happen when this thing happens. But you're putting the cart before the horse. The horse hadn't even arrived yet. So you're worrying about something that has not happened. And I can guarantee you two things. Number one, it's probably not going to be as bad as you thought it was. Or number two, it's not going to happen at all. So, but you're worried about it. So you're losing sleep, you're losing energy, you're giving away valuable things over something that has not even happened yet. And so that's what I mean when I say complicate things. Take a deep breath, step back, and say, peace, be still. Let the peace of God rest in your spirit, because if you do that, then those things won't overwhelm you. I do a lot of things. I'll give you, for instance, I'll give you a personal example. I do a lot of things, a lot. I'm chaplain, pastor, run a company, run my business. I preach, I teach, I do this, I write, amongst other things. And so people ask me all the time, how do you do all of those things and do them effectively. And I say one thing at a time, because I'm not thinking about anything other than what I'm doing right now. This this broadcast is what I'm doing. This is the only thing that I'm doing. Why? Because now I may multitask, but everything is multitask, but it's in line with what I'm doing. Because if it's not, then it's confusing. And I know that I serve a God who is a God of decency and order. So I'm not going to step out of that, because that's what keeps me grounded. And so I do one thing at a time, so that I focus on what I'm doing, so that I'm not someplace else when I really need to be here, because I'm really not there. I am here.
Mm-hmm.
But if my mind is over there, then technically I'm not where I'm supposed to be. So I've got to take one thing at a time. So you talked about that. Then you talked about exercise. And you talked about COVID. And those are great points, because number one, my wife's retired. I work from home. So
Mm-hmm.
we're in the same environment. Then with COVID, we were here all the time together.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's going outside, nothing else. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a gym person. I do my exercises at home.
Mm-hmm.
I have a little Stairmaster that I use. I use weights. I do that. I do my calisthenics. I do that at home. So I was still doing that. I did it before COVID, and I did it after COVID, and I did it during COVID,
Mm-hmm.
because it kept me focused on what I needed to do. My
Uh-huh.
sleep, yeah, I try to get 6 to 8 hours. Sometimes I get 4. But what I've done is on Wednesdays, because my Monday nights are long, my Tuesday nights are long, my Mondays and Tuesdays are long. Of course, Sunday is a day is preaching, so it's long.
Absolutely.
Saturday is prep day, so it's long. So the weekends don't come for me. So what I do is on Wednesday, I don't accept anything early. I
Mm.
sleep in on Wednesday.
Great.
So I catch up. Ketchup is good on hot dogs and hamburgers, but every now and then it's good. It's good for me, because it gives me an opportunity to catch up with what I need, which is my rest, which is my
Absolutely.
rest. And then, and then you also talked about the spiritual side. Well, I'm a minister, so I do that every day, without exception. I don't care if I don't physically exercise. If I do not physically exercise,
Mm-hmm.
I'm still going to read my scripture. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to do, because that's how I start my day. I have to, because if not, I have no idea what I'm going to run into when I leave. Matter of fact, when I get out of my bed, I don't know what's going to happen when I'm in my bed, because I'm in my bed with someone else. And it's my wife.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
before I get out of bed, I may have a situation I have to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to make sure that I'm ready for that at all times. So yes, mind, body, spirit, or we
Mm-hmm.
say mind, body, and soul. All of those things have to be in alignment, and that's when the miracles happen. So
And, and
I got you,
and
brother.
just to piggyback off the word alignment, you said it best. I mean, alignment is what happened in life. When we're not in alignment, that's what a lot of the chaos goes. And the ego wants what it wants, but God what He wants. So
Hmm.
we can't really resist that. But before we go off, I just again want to say again, when you say the word alignment, life isn't chance,
Mm.
and I want everybody to understand that life is not chance. And to give you an example, again, Dr. Lauren just said it best. So Cedric Russell Doty, those are my closest friends. Me and Cedric grew up since we could ever remember. I mean, we're both 50, so he celebrates a couple months before me. I always laugh and I say, "Man, you old," and he said, "You about to be there too." So we have that love. Doty, man, I tell you, he's one of the sharpest brothers I've seen. I've talked to people from a medical perspective all over, and intellectual, I could just sit and chat with that brother for days, hours,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
just we just feed off each other. We're brothers without being brothers. We grew up just houses apart. And for me, I knew, of course, Lawrence, seeing him all the time coming down in the summer. But ironically, it was his brother Tommy that I came to New York to visit with.
Right.
And I was waiting, I think Billy was his name, I believe. I was
Yeah,
waiting
Billy.
at
Yes,
Tommy's
sir.
place
Yes,
for
sir.
Billy,
Yes, sir.
and the phone rang, and I answered, and lo and behold, it was Lauren. And from then on, the rest is history. It's
Yeah.
like we knew each other, but that time again it wasn't a coincidence.
Right.
And that's what alignment is. In essence, we're destined to be in places of alignment. It just God has a way of putting people in our path and in our way, and putting us where we need to be. And so just to kind of
And then it's up to
explain
us. It's up to us to take advantage of those times because you
100%.
don't want to miss it. You don't want because if you miss it,
Hmm.
you may not ever see it again.
100%. So it goes back to the saying is take advantage of the opportunity within the lifetime of that opportunity. So
Mm-hmm.
you're not always going to have, a lot of things, but you have to take advantage of it. And so being fully present is what you talked about a while ago. And that's the one thing I tell everybody, be fully present in the moment. A lot of times we get depressed over past events that you can't change history. You can't change anything about what happened. I would love to go back to the 20-year-old Al Sutton and say, hey, do this or do that. But the reality is what happened had to happen for good or bad. And,
Mm-hmm.
and that
Mm-hmm.
pain had to occur, that growth had to occur
Right.
for God's transformation for you as a person, right? And so when you go through whatever you're going through, that financial strain, maybe that's God preparation for you to learn how to manage money. Maybe it's God preparation when He does give you money that you can ultimately do things for others as well. But if you can't manage what you have, then sometimes you have to be stripped down. You know, sometimes when you at your best or whatever health wise, sometimes when people I've seen in the hospital who don't have any religious affiliation, but when they're on their worst, they got to find God. They have to find and get down on knees and pray because what else do you have, right? When you're in your darkest moments in whatever time, you can always count on that, right? So what I'm saying is, as a whole, as people, is we're here for a reason. So now establish that reason, and be fully present in the moment, and learn to be able to let go of things. And sometimes, say for example, even for a relationship, we get caught up in that love and that feeling that person is gone and all that stuff. But what if that person was only that chapter in your life, and that person only put there for you to learn a certain lesson? And when you go back to the ego, when you look at like Carl Jung, which was a psychologist, he talks about again the masculine, the feminine.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
within the masculine, there's what they call the anima, the anima, which is the male actual feminine aspect. And
Right.
within the female feminine, there's the animus, and
Mm.
the animus is the masculine aspect of a female. What happens is whether you want to call it love at first sight, soul ties, or whatever, our souls connect with another soul, and it's an instant spark. And that what some people call love at first sight or whatever. It's just two souls that recognize each other, and basically you're there to teach each other something, whatever that something is. But just because you're there and you ignite and you have that intense feeling doesn't necessarily mean you're meant to be together forever. You
Right.
have to learn what you have to learn from whomever, and then when it person's journey time to move on, don't be mad or bitter. Just let that go. Depression comes when we're holding on to things that's long gone, and we're trying to fight to keep something there when we got to release that, right? My mom passed, I can't be depressed though because at the end of the day, I did everything I know I could do for her, and
Right.
now that she's gone on with God, it's a relief for me because
Mm-hmm.
she's not hurting,
Mm-hmm.
she's not suffering, she's not in the position that she was, right? And so I don't want to be selfish and hold on and not make that phone call to take her, keep on life support, to do all these other different measures, of trach and peg and all that stuff because it's not going to be my mother. It's a shell of my mother there, right? And so the best thing for me to do, as much as that hurt, is let that go.
Mm-hmm.
Give it to God. I told the doctor, I have to do this. I can't keep her like this, right? So most people are going to be depressed and sad. Yeah, it hurts. But a part of me is happy because I don't want to see her like that. And I know she's moved on to another aspect of life. Her soul is at peace and she's happy and she's with God, right? And so what I'm saying to everybody is learn to let go of things, and that eases that depression a little bit. Make sure you properly sleep. And if you can't sleep, like Dr. Lawrence said, make sure you account for a day the way you can, like in your case, Wednesday. Make sure you're taking care of yourself because again, that mind has to be mentally sharp. So one thing I've learned for people out there, if you can, just go out and get you a cheap notebook. You ain't gotta be nothing lavish. Write down your thoughts. Don't be afraid to say, today I feel sad, today I feel happy, today I feel whatever. Now, okay, what is that feeling and why is that feeling there? What is causing that? And from there, you really tap in and deep dive into that. And then what I try to encourage people, don't run from your past either. The past is done, but give an example. I held on to a lot of past trauma because of my biological father. It's a lot there, right? I won't get into that, but I had to really come full circle with that. And the number one thing is even though I'm not going to have a relationship with him, I don't want a relationship with him. I had to forgive him, right? As much as I hated that dude for the longest, I'm not here to dispute that. I'm just being honest and as real with you guys as I can. I literally had hate for that guy, but I had to come to peace within myself. And once I had that wholeness within myself, I learned to have that peace. And then I had to be able to forgive it, right? And for me, what I tell people is don't hold on to a lot of things, and be able to forgive people in our life. Don't necessarily mean you have to have a relationship with them, but at least be able to forgive them and move forward, because that's for you to release all of that. You carrying all that bitterness and everything is just a slow death for yourself.
It's just,
Stress is another. Oh, sorry.
let me give it to you this way. It's like drinking poison and thinking the other person's going to die.
100%. Great. Well said, Doctor. Well said. You
Well,
started drinking and enjoying it.
it's not, forgiveness is okay for the person that you're forgiving, but it is an elixir for you.
100%.
It's like drinking from the fountain of youth,
Yes.
because it will release so much pressure, so much anxiety, so much worry, so much, just it would just release you. Period. Period. You can't hold on to those things. As badly as you were treated, as badly as you felt, with all of that is not as bad as what you're doing to yourself.
100%.
The lack of forgiveness.
And you know the stress kills.
Absolutely.
Through the stress, the physiological aspect of it is the body is producing and utilizing way more cortisol, right? And so it's a stress hormone, and cortisol is not a very good thing for the body. And just to kind of piggyback off the mind, body, spirit, when we tap into the body aspect of it, you got to do things again like work out to reduce that level of stress. Things like ashwagandha is a natural way to kind of reduce the levels of cortisol. For a lot of African Americans, we have a lot of diabetes, hypertension, and heart disease in our family. So, that health aspect is very, very important. Just to kind of put things into perspective for me, I look at life, right? And it's interesting. Me and Dodie, Dr. Lauren, had this conversation right on my 50th birthday. And the conversation was this is, the average lifespan for a male is 75 years.
Yep.
And literally, I'm almost 50 at that time, literally 50 now. And God's willing, I have more years, right? But the realization is I got to take care of this earthly body that God's given me, because I need this to last, right? I need this to be at my optimum every single day. And that's why, I speak of the body, because we all got to really tap into that. But I say all that to say is at 50 years in the average lifespan of a male is 75. Literally, I've lived more years. So I got more years behind me. Actually, I got in front of me. And that just blows my mind just thinking about it, because when I think in my 20s, I just got so much time. And even in my 50s, God willing, I still got a lot more time. But the reality is it doesn't really matter the time I have. Is what did you do with it, right?
Right.
When you look at the late great Dr. Martin Luther King, he was what, 30? How old?
39.
Yeah, but the guy lived and done so much within that lifetime. It's just the time we have. What are we doing with it? And
Right.
don't take for granted each
Right.
day that God allows us to wake up and see another day, because it's another opportunity to live in that mission and the purpose that He put us here for. So it's no time to be depressed. It's no time to have anxiety. Anxiety, you're worried about tomorrow, which you don't even know you're going to encounter. Like Dr. Lawrence said, you don't even know you're going to happen with that in the future, right? It may not even be anything like what you think and worry and stressing about it, right? So when you
Nine
look at
times out of 10, it won't be.
no,
It won't
exactly,
be. It won't be.
100%. So again, we're caught up in that depression. So again, if it's something you're dealing with, whether heartbreak from a relationship, from a marriage, or whatever that may be, learn to accept the fact that that person might have only came into your life to teach you something, to tap into your inner psyche, your inner self, your inner soul, to do whatever it needed to do. And then now that person time in your life, it's time for them to move on their journey, and you have to continue on with yours. See, no matter what, tomorrow morning that sun is going to come up. So if God gives you the opportunity to open your eyes, you got to be ready and productive and move forward, because on your way to work, on your way to wherever, doing that whatever, you might have that story from your trials and tribulation that can propel another human being out of what they're going through. That person that you encounter tomorrow might be on the edge of taking their own life, might be on the urge of, on the verge of their very last or whatever. You might be that person that lived an experience that they're actually currently going through. They could propel them. You might have a medical illness. I had this black guy who came to us, and ultimately he had he thankfully got a recipient for a heart. And when you look at that Dr. Lauren, to be a recipient for any kind of organ, you got to be actually a blood type match for that person. And not only that, your body has to accept it. Anything that you put into your body that's foreign, the body's naturally going to start attacking it, right? It's going to try to basically resist it. And so for this brother to make it and have another heart, he said, brother, I got another chance at life. I said, brother, what are you going to do with that? You know, that's the powerful thing. Not just have another chance. What are you going to do with that?
Well, you know, that's a great segue. We're going to go into the break, but you know someone, and I know someone mutually that's now celebrating his 1 year anniversary just recently of a heart transplant, and his name happens to be Russell as well, Russell uh, Anderson.
Really? I didn't
Yes,
know
sir.
that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I saw him at Dwayne's wedding,
Mm-hmm.
and he said, I'm celebrating my one year anniversary. He was there. We prayed consistently. We still do, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, his body's not rejected it. He's doing well. He's doing really well. And so
Beautiful.
Russell is, for those of you who don't know, he's a dear friend of mine. We grew up together, you know, when I would go south, and he and my nephew, my other nephew's father, you know, Bruce, the two of them were renting a trailer, and I went down that summer. And when I got there, Reverend Dr. Scipio helped me get a job, and I stayed with them in the trailer that summer. And it was a marvelous summer that we had. So yeah, Bruce and Russell were and still are two of my great friends. Hey, listen, you see our photos up on the screen. People haven't gotten off yet, so that means that they like what they see. So why don't we do this? I'm gonna disappear. You can do likewise. And what we're going to do is I'm going to go back. I'm going to recognize our sponsors and advertisers. I want to read the article again. I'm going to come back with a challenge question. I'm going to challenge everybody to answer that challenge questions. And then the second half of our broadcast tonight, I'm going to look at some of the responses that they've brought in and then bring their conversation into our conversation so they'll no longer be flies on the wall, but they'll be a part of our conversation. So those of you out there, listen, the challenge question is before you. I will remind you of what it is. If you were in a severe storm or a tornado, maybe a hurricane, a physical, financial, or medical crisis, and went to the creator of all that is, all that will ever be, and all that is, and you found him asleep, what would you do? So that's the question. So let's go ahead. We're going to do what we said, and we're going to come back in just a few moments, and then we will finish off the second half of our broadcast as strongly as we began it. So, my brothers and my sisters, here we go. Matters of Faith family, please support our sponsors and advertisers financially by using their services. Support those who support those things that are being a blessing to you. The JLR Company and J. Lauren R. Consulting LLC for all of your church financial consulting needs, workshops and seminars, church evaluations. We do property development. We do church loans. We do financial workshops and literacy from a biblical perspective. JLORENR at JLR.LLC. That's JLORENR at JLR.LLC. Or give us a call, 718 328 8096. 718 328 8096. It's not about the castle, it's about the kingdom. Matters of Faith, the book. The hard copy can be obtained by using our Zelle account. That's JLORENR at JLR.LLC. The book costs $24.15. You can also send or check a money order to the JLR Company, Post Office Box 301, New York, New York, 10035. That's the JLR Company, Post Office Box 301, New York, New York, 10035. You can also get it as an ebook. If you get it as an ebook, there's no shipping and no handling, so the book will be $20. You get it at www.smashwords.com/books/view/993177. smashwords.com/books/view/993177. Check out the Eat Okra app for all black-owned restaurants all over the nation. That's right, Eat Okra. Professional, compassionate, and family-friendly services in time of bereavement. John J. Fox and Sons Incorporated Funeral Services have been proudly serving the Bronx community for 125 years. If you're in need, give them a call. They're family-friendly, They're compassionate. They're professional. 718-733-9114. When you're in need, John J. Fox and Sons. 718-733-9114. Your focus and your attention on your business is profitability. Your church is on spiritual excellence. But let E.G. Edwards and Associates handle your accounting and taxation needs with competence and professional excellence. Financial Solutions is just a phone call away. 718-949-5181. 718-949-5181. E.G. Edwards and Associates are here to help. Just dial 718-949-5181. And get your subscription to Better Mag magazine today. A 2-year subscription is only $27.50. That's $27.50. Go to www.abettermag.com. That's www.abettermag.com. And lastly, please subscribe, like, and share our Matters of Faith YouTube channel. That's subscribe, like, and share the Matters of Faith YouTube channel. And while you're at it, subscribe, please, ma'am, please, sir, to mattersoffaith.blog. That's mattersoffaith.blog. You will get a notification every time one of our articles is published. mattersoffaith.blog. Matters of Faith family, I'm so excited. The Matters of Faith column has its own base, mattersoffaith.blog. So please, ma'am, please, sir, go to mattersoffaith.blog. When you get there, open the devotional. Scroll down to the bottom of the page. You'll see the subscribe button. Click it. Put your email address in, and you will be notified every time we publish. Remember, mattersoffaith.blog. Open the devotional. Go down to the button that says subscribe. Click it. Put your email address in, and you will be notified of everything we publish. Thank you so much. You know I love you. There's nothing you can do about it, so get used to it. We've got a big discount. 50% off of the ebook Matters of Faith, the book, if you use the coupon UDATE. www.smashwords.com/books/view/993177. There is a big 50% discount for the ebook if you use the coupon UDATE. www.smashwords.com/books/view/993177. Don't miss the sale. It's $10. And now the article, Peace Be Still. That article can be found in my link, mattersoffaith.blog. Make sure you subscribe to mattersoffaith.blog. In fact, do it right now. It can also be found in the Yonkers Insider, www.yonkersinsider.blogspot.com. The column is carried in Better Mag magazine, www.abettermag.com, www.abettermag.com, and it's also carried in the Positive Community magazine, www.thepositivecommunity.com. That's www.thepositivecommunity.com. Oh, the column is also carried in Pamela's Big Heart newsletter. Peace be still. Mark chapter 4, verses 25 through 31, New King James Version. On the same day when evening had come, he said to them, "Let us cross over to the other side." Now when they had left the multitude, they took him along in the boat as he was, and other little boats also were with them. And a great windstorm arose, and the waves beat into the boat so that it was already filling. But he was in the stern, asleep on a pillow. And they awake him and said to him, "Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing?" Then he arose and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, "Peace, be still." And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. But he said to them, "Why are you so fearful? How is it that you have no faith?" And they feared exceedingly and said to one another, "Who can this be that even the wind and the sea obey him?" Peace, be still. During my quiet time with the Lord in the mornings, as I read and study from the Holy Writ, recite scriptures, meditate, pray, and exercise, I hear the voice of the Lord in holistic fashion. Each aspect of worship serves in its own unique way and reveals his presence and quiets the storms in my spirit. and my life. During those quiet moments, when his voice is clear, his presence is felt, and the storms cease, then I experience an overwhelming warmth in my heart. The situations in my life may not change, but the calm that envelops me gives me a sense of peace and inner assurance that everything is going to be just fine. It's hard to explain, since it isn't always logical, but in those still, quiet moments, his voice whispers, and I can hear him clearly saying, "Peace, be still." Life always has storms, one that is past, one that is happening right now, or one that is coming. When the storm arose on the Sea of Galilee, his disciples, fearful and scared, cried out, "Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing?" When you do not know the one who can calm raging storms with a word, you also don't know the God who can just as easily calm the storms in your life with the same words, "Peace, be still." Astonished and amazed, his disciples asked, "Who can this be that even the wind and the sea obey him?" What they did not know was that the peace of God is the key to making it through a storm. That peace is found in the pages of the Bible, not deeply buried in some secret place that you need a bulldozer or a pickaxe to find. You don't have to be a rocket scientist or a college graduate. Just trust in the one who looked at the storm, spoke to the winds, and calmed the raging sea. If you don't have a time that you dedicate to spend with him, a time when it's just you and God, you are missing the peace that only he can give, and you will never know the kind of peace, what the Bible calls the shalom peace, that can weather any storm, even ferocious storms like the disciples experienced. Truly, it is in those still, quiet moments that you can hear his voice whisper, speaking clearly to the storms in your life, saying, "Peace, be still." Be blessed. And so, for the final time tonight, and I really want you to engage this question. If you were in a severe storm, a tornado, maybe a hurricane, a physical, financial, or medical crisis, and you went to the creator of all that is, all that was, and all that there will ever be, and found him asleep, what would you do? Okay, here we go again. If you were in a severe storm, a tornado, maybe a hurricane, a physical, financial, or medical crisis, and you went to the creator of all that is, all that was, and all that ever will be, and found him asleep, what would you do? Well, Matters of Faith family, you've gotten to know my guest a lot better. But let me tell you some things about him that I really want you to really know. That he is a big time giver, especially to the town in which he comes from. He's constantly going back and planting seeds and trying to lead by example. So you see on the screen some things of the events that he's hosted there in the name of the late great Reverend Julius Scipio. And of course you have the photo of Reverend Dr. Julius Scipio. You also have some other photos which I'll let him explain, but let me just share this with you. This young man is exceptional. He's not only exceptional because of what he does, but he's exceptional because of who he is. And he is my friend. He is like a nephew to me, like a son. So, Matters of Faith family, would you welcome with me for the second part of this broadcast tonight, Dr. Al Sutton. All right. Did I get you good? All right. So now you can explain to us what we're looking at. Tell us who you see, what's going on in here. You're muted. You're muted. Just unmute yourself right quick.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yep, can hear you fine.
Okay, yeah. I was saying, sorry. Hey, excellent, man. Intro. I appreciate that. Definitely appreciate. And again, big thanks to you too, there, my brother. Again, you've always been there for me. Again, it's alignment. Again, just coming to New York, visiting your brother Tommy to get that phone call that day because I thought it was Billy, and there you were. It's just been a beautiful thing, man. I'm blessed to have Dr. Scipio as a father figure and a mentor. I'm glad to have Rev. Again, I consider him like an uncle, man. Even though we're not related, he's always been there for me again, like an uncle, mentor, and everything as well. And for Pickens, I definitely got to get back into more. A lot of things what we've been doing and trying to get back to is we had a youth, which we had some youth events. We took the college one time to got to experience a college football game. Thanks to Dr. Brian Spearman for that as well. We just had a lot of
By the way,
love.
thank you for recommending. I got to get him back on. Dr. Spearman has been a guest on my show a couple of times. I
Yes,
got to get him back
yes.
on.
Yeah,
He's
grew up
really cool.
together as well. Great brother, man. And again, that's an example of we have no borders in terms of color, man. And
Mhm.
again, you know who Dr. Spearman is. One of my friends, Doctor. I mean, he's not doctor. He's a judge. Been there. He's actually a judge in Pickens, South Carolina. He's a great guy as well. But going back to the family day, it was inspired because what inspired me. I remember probably one of my darker days. And I was on the verge of giving up and not wanting to go to med school.
Mm.
What had happened is I'd earned my college degree, and I went to med school, but then financially things just unraveled. Everything fell apart, and so I just remember one day I just went for a ride, and something told me to go to Anderson to see Rev, and I went down there and I wanted to talk. He said, "Man, I tell you what, just let's take care of this." He had a community event. That's what this was
Mhm.
inspired for. He had a
Mhm.
community event. He said, "Man, just help me out here, and we'll talk afterwards." And so by the time I got through laughing, having a good time, I actually kind of forgot what I was going through, and
Mm.
I ultimately told him what I was thinking is not giving up and not going to school and giving up on my dreams of being a doctor. He said, "Brother, that's God calling. You can do this," and that's how everything just transpired. And I tell you that to tell you is the level of respect and appreciation he had for everyone, right? People who came out to the church that day for a meal who probably didn't have a bath in probably a couple of days, I would imagine, who might have just got through taking them a good old drink. You can sense that on. Nobody was turned away. And I love that because, again, it's come as you are. And that's basically what everybody did. It wasn't a church service now, but this is a community event where he was feeding everybody. And literally how he embraced everybody was genuine. And that's how everything was inspired. So I wanted to bring that to Pickens and ultimately get back to that as well with the youth group as well as this, because again, is that fellowship does something we all need, and that's something that hopefully we can encourage from our churches. For everybody just listening, if you got a canned item in your pantry that you're not going to eat, let's donate that. Let's go into our closets and clean those out for clothes we can't wear, and let's try to give those things out and give back to the community, do things, because we all know what happens on November the 1st with the government assistance for a lot of people. So we want to make sure we are doing our parts as people to give back. And that's basically what Family Day was, Dr. Scipio, Dr. Sutton Family Day. It was inspired by me going to Anderson that day, wanting to just give up on my dream and not even want to be affiliated with medicine anymore because of things just wasn't going my way. But that day just really showed me what love and compassion was, and basically just put me back on my path. Sometimes just giving back to others can uplift you, though.
Absolutely. And I think I was at that event.
Yeah, yeah, you were. That's what I say. I think you was there as
I
well.
was
And
there. Hmm.
it was just a beautiful thing, man. And I just love that. And this is something hopefully we can all inspire from.
Well, what's interesting is that when you and you said it earlier, when you give, whatever you're going through makes it a lot easier, because sometimes you're giving baggage that you're carrying around that doesn't even belong to you,
One
and
hundred
it should
percent.
be given away. And so you do that, and it frees you to do other things. Do me a favor, go around the screen. I know the one with you and I. That was the day that you graduated with your doctorate and became the doctor. And I wanted to make sure that I was there. And by the grace of God, I was able to be with you that day, which
Man, I
was an
thank you.
amazing, amazing day, which
I
was in
thank you for
Chicago.
coming up.
You're
Yeah, I think
welcome. It
you
was in
flew
Chicago.
in. Yeah, you flew in that day to
I
see,
flew
man.
in.
I
I
definitely
did.
appreciate it. It was, of course, me and you on the left right there on
Right.
graduation day, and in the lower, that's the Al Sutton in 94, man. That's take me back. That was football days, man. In the middle picture there, that's me and my son, actually Trey. So it's just
All
really
right.
proud of that kid, man. He's turned out to be a great little young man there.
All
And
right. All right.
again, man, it's just a lot of love and just a lot of appreciation. So now going back into the part you talking about carrying baggage and depression and all those things. So there's a thing called a law of conservation of energy. And that's important because depression, sadness, whatever things, those are all energy and everything build up. And that energy as a whole through following the law of conservation energy. See, energy cannot be created or destroyed; it can only be transferred. So you have to transfer it in a positive way, doing something with it, right? Depression is just one of them things you're just going to spiral. So if you start drinking today, you're going to need more and more of those drinks. You know, if you
Mm.
start using codependency and things like you're looking for escapism, and it's just going to be more and more of a spiral. You just basically putting a temporary band-aid on a permanent wound almost. You
Right.
got to deep dive and get into things. And again, once the past, we address it, but we also have to move forward for it because again, there's this energy just balled up, and
Mm.
it can either be transferred in a positive way or it can pretty much destroy you and take you down another road.
Right. 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 Do you want to say something about about the post, not the poster, but the photos on the right, which of
Uh,
course, you know the individual because it's from your Facebook. But why don't
oh
you
yeah,
take?
yeah, yeah. Sorry about that. I had my screen thing. I didn't even see the bottom part. So
Uh-huh.
yeah. So in the picture, of course you got Rev by himself.
Yes.
Again, wonderful man. Is I think he embodies what I think a lot of people should be, but again, we can't put that on a lot of people. But to me, is who are we when no one's looking, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so,
Mm-hmm.
like I
Mm-hmm.
told you guys before, when I was in manufacturing, I was only out setting the squeak from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. And from there, I just wanted to go off and do whatever I want to do. But now that title is a physician, and I have to wear that 24/7. And so I got to be mindful of what I'm doing, right? So I do
Right.
like a cold beer and a cigar, but I can't be out sloppy drunk in public, right? And I can't represent myself in a bad way because again, you never know who's going to see me. And also too, being kind and courteous to other people. I can't be nasty to me because I'm having a bad day that has nothing to do with you and anybody else. So again, is as a whole, who are we when no one's looking? That's what integrity is, right?
Right.
So now when you look at the picture of collaboration with Rev and the two ladies up above, that's my grandmother, Bessie Sutton and Barbara Sutton. So again, two great ladies. The picture below that is my son, and then me in my younger years. To the right, that's my aunt Jean and my mom. With the hair, I get the you look so much like her all the time, and I
Mm-hmm.
tell you that, Lauren, I don't like to smile in pictures. And my lady friend asked me the other day because I have dimples, right? And I just remember
Yes.
my grandmother and them, and her friend, they just taking it, grabbing my cheek and just squeeze it, man. It hurts so much. You got cute dimples, and so I try hard not to smile so people see though. I just remember that trauma of them squeezing on it. And so it again at the lower, that's them again. So Bessie Sutton and Barbara. So again, um, life is about legacy, right? And so again is what why are we here? So again, for me, it's Al Sutton, August 31st, 1975 dash. I'm living out that dash now. And that dash is a part of what's on the screen there from my grandmother's to also as well as Reverend Scipio. Even though we're not blood relatives, there's still a legacy there as well. To Lauren as well. This legacy. We're living all within that legacy. So what is our purpose on this earth and what will our legacy be? And again, it goes back to Dr. Martin Luther King, the brother you said was 39 when he passed.
Yep.
Look at what he achieved in that lifespan, right? And so again, as a male, if everything goes well, 75 years is what I'm granted, right? Hopefully, again, taking care of this body, and I can live much longer. But the goal is whatever time God has given me to make sure I leave my legacy and mark on this world. And when my time ends, did I make it just a little bit better before than it was? And that's what I want us all to basically do. You don't necessarily have to be a physician. You don't necessarily have to be a pastor. You don't, whatever you are, be the best of that. And again, that's where everything starts. So again, if that past trauma event, let's address that past trauma event. Let's address that little boy who was hurt, i.e., yourself as a little boy, or that little girl who was hurt now as a grown woman. Let's address those, but let's not hold on to too much. Let's be able to release it because depression leads us into a cycle that we
Mm-hmm.
can't afford to stay in. Tomorrow is going to come. Let's make tomorrow come and be the best version of ourselves so we can go out into the world. So your trauma, your event, whatever it is you went through in the past, your walk to work, your drive to work, your time on break, your time on whatever it is, you might encounter that person while you're in that train station, while you're at work, or while you're on the airplane, or wherever you're at, that your trauma, your story might be necessarily what somebody's going through that can get them over the hump. And so that's how I just look at life is let's live within our purpose and make sure we're doing and giving back what we can give back and tapping into God's gift.
Right. Because you might be at that moment, you might be the windbreaker. You
Mhm.
know, you have to play the role that you have been given, because you may switch back and forth from being the person who's being pulled out of the storm to being the person who's pulling someone else out of the storm. And so,
100%.
peace, be still, peace, peace, peace. We bring the peace, and sometimes we receive the peace.
100%.
Once you understand that you have been called for a particular purpose, and that your purpose is that you are a builder of bridges. You connect people with people. You talk about Dr. Scipio, and of course he was my mentor as well.
Hmm.
And Dr. Scipio and I had a very unique and what I might call a more than inspirational relationship. I am a preacher today because of him.
Wow, blessings. I did not know that. Did not know
Yeah,
that.
because of him. One summer I went south and I had a storm that broke out in my life, a major storm. I was in the South. I was going down for the summer. I was born and raised in New York. So I've never lived in Pickens, but I
Wow.
went. And so that summer I was there and I was actually working at the nursing home,
Wow.
Miss Flo.
Yeah, yeah, I know the
Working
dress
with Miss
song. Yeah.
Flo. And that's Miss Flo happens to be Dr. Scipio's mother-in-law.
Hmm.
Now his eldest son, Eddie, is one of my best friends,
Hmm.
one of my closest friends. In fact,
Very intelligent brother.
he's celebrating his wedding anniversary today. 40 years ago, he got married, and I was at his wedding. 2 years after that, I got married. My wedding anniversary was Friday, this past
Mhm.
Friday. So I've been married 38 years. He's been married 40. And so when I was down there, my grandmother, my grandmother put me out.
Wow.
Now I'm in South Carolina, 800 miles from my home. What am I going to do?
Exactly.
So I went to the Scipio's house.
Hmm.
And so she asked I call her Ma Scipio, Ma Scip. She said, well, what did you do? I said, what did I work for your mother. You know,
Exactly.
I'm working, I get off, I come here, I go home. That's it. That's it. That's all I do.
Hmm.
She said, well, I would tell you that you could stay here, but Rev will have to give that consent. And just at that moment, the telephone rang.
Ah.
They have cell phones. Telephone rang, and it was
Oh,
Rev.
yeah.
And she said, "Wow, this is Rev." So he said, "Let me talk to the boy." So I'm talking with him. He said, "Well, I've been calling you, my son, all this while. You may as well You may as well go get your stuff and come on home." So I went down and got my bag, and I moved in with the Scipios. They gave me a nice room in the house,
Wow.
and I was treated like I was family. And I saw a man live Monday through Friday what he preached on Sunday.
Exactly.
And it blew me away. Now, my dad, I have the greatest respect for my father because my father was a father extraordinaire. Dr. Scipio was cut from the same cloth,
Wow.
and he was a preacher. And I saw that, and I had no idea because we didn't go to church on Sundays every Sunday. We went occasionally, but I went to Sunday school. I loved Sunday school.
Right.
But I wasn't like the church guy. But when I was with him that summer, well, every Sunday we went to church.
Wow.
And because he was the pastor, I hung out with them. So I was treated like I'm one of the family. I said, this is
Wow.
really nice. I like this. And so over the years, he and I stayed in touch about this thing. And when I was called into ministry, I called him. And it happened it was very early, very early. It was a Wednesday morning.
Hmm.
I had started my own business and I was having these meetings in my office once a month. I would have, I was in financial services and I would have all of my clients and the clients of my agents said, just invite them to come. We'll have prayer in the office.
Hmm.
And at 6 o'clock in the morning,
Wow.
my office was on Park Avenue and 42nd Street.
Wow.
So we were there. And that morning, I was the only one who showed up.
Wow.
Well, I thought I was the only one who showed up,
Hmm.
but the Lord showed up with me. And he said, open the Bible and read. And I opened the Bible and it says, preach the word, be instant in season, out of season. I said, you can't be talking to me. You can't be saying. So I called my pastor. He was unavailable. I called Reverend Scipio. He was in Memphis, Tennessee at the time.
Wow.
Ike, his son, Ike, had just been called into ministry.
Wow.
And Ike said, Dad ain't never home on Wednesday morning, but he's home today.
Wow.
So I spoke with him. And when I told him that I was called into the ministry, he said, I said, you don't sound surprised. He says, called me by my nickname. It's Candy. He said, look, I have seen this on you since you were a little boy. I
Wow.
was wondering how long it was going to take for you to receive the call yourself.
Beautiful, man.
And then he began to share with me. So
Mm-hmm.
he was the person that I had to talk to, not my pastor, because he is my spiritual father.
Mm-hmm.
And so we spoke and he gave me that indication. So I'm a preacher today because of Reverend Dr. Julius Scipio.
And it goes back to what we talked about before, alignment. Nothing's by
Absolutely.
chance. Nothing's by
Nothing
chance.
by chance. I mean,
How
my grandmother, so the storm, right? So
Mhm.
while the storm raged, here comes the peacemaker. Reverend Scipio says, peace, be still.
Exactly.
And the turmoil that I was about to go through
Mm-hmm.
stopped.
And everything had to happen the way it had to happen. And
Yes.
a lot of times, if we're honest, we knew and we got those calls sometimes of what we should be, but we fought it, we resisted it, and again is things happen at the right time, and that goes back to what I said before. I always thought again when I reached a certain age, everything would just be cool, calm.
Mm,
I'd be at a certain level, I can just do this, and everything will be okay. But it's never that. And the thing is, we just have to embrace it. And so now, like you said, whatever that calling is, you have to answer, because if
mhm,
not, it just keeps reoccurring. And again, we just put in positions and we don't know why. It's just why we're here. And again, thankfully, again, you took that call and you've definitely held up and been doing a great job, man. So I appreciate you. And I'm sure, again, man, everybody in New York and everywhere, because that's all, again, I ever heard growing up, candy for the weekend, for the summers and stuff. So it was always a blessing, man. So it's just one of them things that I hope that our world can get back to what we grew up to, because I just remember going to Eloise's house and being around Candy, being around Tommy, being around others. And even though I wasn't related, so I was always treated like family, and again, that's what I ultimately want us all to be able to be. We're all the same, right? It's just, again, is we get divided by religion, sometimes racism, and through politics, but we're all under this earth for one reason or another, and
right.
love one another, and let's all have a commonality, right? And it's amazing, again, is the vision sometimes, and again is we're all people at the end of the day.
Well, you're absolutely right, and it's interesting because, as I think about what was written in this article, this devotional. It's not an article, it's a devotional. When I think about the way the Lord sort of used me to speak about this, and then when I think about what I preached on yesterday, how he took that and just, I mean, just really just expounded on it and gave some great insight. But here's the thing that got me is that you can be around individuals like the disciples were with Jesus, and you can see, feel, and experience all of the blessings that the Lord uses this person for. Of course, Jesus was God in the flesh, so that was a little different. But sometimes you can be around people who have these gifts that the Lord has bestowed upon them and miss it.
Yeah.
Because the disciples missed it. I mean, their cry, who can this be
Mhm.
that even the wind and the waves obey him, right? So they saw him do so many things.
Mhm.
They were there, they witnessed it. Yet when the storm came in their life, they missed it.
Mhm.
And there was not just the disciples on the boat, but the scripture says there was many other boats around. So there were other people too, because remember, whatever's happening in your life is happening to other people around you. So nothing happens in isolation. There were other people, a lot of other little boats. We don't know how many people were there. We don't know how many people were on those other boats sailing with him to the other side after he finished preaching and teaching to the multitudes that were there.
Mm-hmm.
So the ripple effect, right? The ripple effect. You throw the rock in the lake, and the ripple just keeps going. It keeps going out. Well, that's what happened here. We don't know the impact, but we do know eventually that they did get it.
Mm-hmm.
They did get it, because if they had not, then we would not be here today.
Yep.
But it's
True.
it's it's an amazing thing for me as I look at this story, as I look at this this pericope of information when it talks about what happened on the Sea of Galilee. It is amazing to me. And then there's another account where another storm arose and Peter walked on water, walked on water, a physical impossibility, but he did it. And then in the same instance, he took his eyes off of the Lord and began to sink. That's the challenge that we face on a regular basis, right? That's the challenge that we face on a regular basis. Where are we when the storms of life are raging? Are we going to be faithful, or are we going to succumb to the winds and the billows that blow? And are we going to be able to stand and withstand the storm, because we know who the creator is.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes across the board. And you've said so many things about so many different areas of life that
Mm-hmm.
it touches everything in life. It's not any one thing, it's everything.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's why, I gave the definition again of peace in the beginning. Going back to pieces again, it's multifaceted, encompassing both the external absence of conflict as well as internal state of
Hmm.
tranquility. So
Hmm.
again, it goes back to that term before, amor fati. So that's AMORFATI, which again is the
Hmm.
practice of accepting,
Right, right, right.
embracing everything that has happened, isn't currently happening, is yet to happen. So in essence, as a whole, that's what life is. Life is cyclic.
Mm.
So we got to embrace the good and the bad. It's almost like the movie. I love it, American Gangster. He says when you pray for the rain, you got to deal with the mud, and it's just what life is. That with rain comes mud, but also with pain comes growth. And when you look at the 80-20 rule, when you look at the seed has to be buried in dark moisture, and probably one of the most gruesome. I don't even say gruesome, probably the most unseen events, right? But it's not until that seed actually sprouts and comes out of the ground actually begin. But the growth actually took place when the seed was planted, i.e., being watered, and the overall stages before it actually became whatever it was going to become.
Well, think
And that's
about it.
what
It
happened.
has to die to what it was in
Exactly.
order to become
Hmm.
what it was intended to be.
Very true. And that's us as human beings. Sometimes we have to be isolated, and sometimes
Mhm.
we have to be able to be brought into a place where God can actually reach us. And sometimes, you got to actually be still sometimes. What
Mm.
happens sometimes when you go through certain events, sometimes you got to process. Sometimes you got to basically just be quiet. Sometimes you got to be still to embrace and be able to hear what it is God has for you in store. And
Mm.
so sometimes that might come in the form of a dream. That might be coming in the form of, like you said, with your grandmother putting you out the way. Now you have to go and be in the presence of Reverend Scipio, who again, you start to see different things. And that's how I seen, that's
Mhm.
the first time when I seen Reverend Scipio that actually men hugged. I never knew that before, for him to put his arms around somebody and say, I love you. And
Mm.
as a man, you know what that does to you, though? I mean? Like, again, it's funny. Chris Rock has a comedy thing. He said men only value for what they can provide, but only women, children, and dogs are loved unconditionally. It's kind of funny,
Mm.
but in essence, we become the beast of burden sometime.
Mm.
Again, as I remember during my mother's passing, my sisters, everybody was there for them, right? But at the end of the day, is not many people asking me, am I okay? But it's, I guess, the assumption that I'm always good, which I am for the most part. But
Mm.
it goes back to that walk on the beach when I'm finally alone, finally in my one true moment to where I really had time. Really, I didn't
Mm.
have to go to work. I didn't have to prepare for something. I didn't have to take phone calls pertaining to her and make decisions pertaining to her well-being and all that. It was the first time that I was ever really truly still, and at that moment, I just felt the burden. I just felt like an overwhelming feeling.
Mhm.
And that cry, I tell you, it felt so good to get that off because I actually didn't know that's what I was dealing with. But again, that pain was ultimately just being able to form of a release.
Yeah.
And once you have that release, again, now you can just go in and do whatever it is you need to do in life. And as people, if you're dealing with something, just embrace that. And again, going back to Lauren, what you said with the seed, sometimes we're at that darkest point when you're in that sea, but eventually you're going to grow and you're going to see daylight and you're going to just grow. And that's what we want to just focus on as people. What are we doing to grow? Again, that mind, body, and spirit. Those are three aspects of life that we got to basically go into to ultimately reach balance and i.e. peace. And balance in medical field is what's known as homeostasis, is basic balance and equilibrium. And that's what we want to bring in life, is balance and equilibrium, going back to that computer system, the binary system. A set of zeros and ones is how a computer operates. Something so complex, so a computer. Again, look at it sometime. The computers are very complex, but again, it works through binary, right? Zeros and ones is a sequence of how it operates. And as human beings, we got to get to that point where we simplify life, simple yeses and nos. And that's how we basically just move forward. And again, if it's something we can fix, by all means, fix it. But if not, we got to basically move forward, because again, we have a purpose and we got to be able to walk in it each and every day.
Right. Right. You know, it was interesting. A woman by the name of Willa Cather said, there are some things you learn best in the calm and some in the storm. You know, and I like to think about, when I think about storms, I like to think about what happens in a storm. I like to think about what happens even with your mom's, transition, as painful as it is, and not I'm not diminishing and minimizing it at all. But there are some things that come out of it that teaches you who you are, and it brings you closer to that person that you were intended to be. And sometimes you have to go through those kinds of trials and tribulations in order to get there. Now, it may not, it's not comfortable. It's not comfortable. But I always tell people too, when Deborah, my sister, had an accident, and she was, she nearly, the doctors thought she was going to die.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, you do what you do, and let me do what I do, and we'll see if we can meet somewhere in the middle. Because my father told me she's gonna be fine. They asked me, they said, was your father a doctor? I said, no, my father is the doctor. He said she's
I
gonna
love
be
it.
fine.
I
So they
love
said,
it.
well, we don't know, Mr. Russell. I said, I know you don't. But just watch me. Watch this. Watch this. And so, of course, that was 20 plus years ago, right? So she's still here. She's still with us, and God is still good to her. And so I say that to say this, that was a difficult period, very difficult period, where the storms of life were raging. And how do you what comes out of that? Well, it was such a terrible storm, but there was jewels that came out of there that we never even knew were there. The strength that people have, and Deborah in particular, the strength that she has, and the level of her faith was mind-boggling. I mean, I had faith I'm standing on the outside, but I wasn't lying in that bed. You understand what I'm saying? I
Absolutely.
wasn't the one in that bed. But the strength that she exhibited in that bed, that the resiliency and the having to learn to walk all over again, having to learn to function with one hand for the rest of your life,
Mm-hmm.
learning how to cook. And she was a chef.
She's an excellent cook, by the way.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I mean,
Excellent cook.
and I mean, she had to learn how to cook with just one hand, and she's done it. And I'm
And
telling you, I'm just amazed because that storm brought out some amazing,
and
amazing
and
treasures.
another thing, if you don't mind me sharing, I won't go too in detail with it, but again, is I don't know if you remember this, but I reached out to you because I was trying to get my mom into a drug and alcohol program.
Yes.
And ultimately, Deborah was a person who I called and talked to one particular night, and she really helped me out a lot. So, Deborah, if you listen, I want to say thank you as well. I didn't get a chance to thank you as well early because you've always showed support, but that particular conversation with Lauren, first off, when I was trying to get mom into the rehab facility for alcoholism, to ultimately talking with Deborah, is a beautiful thing. So, again, Deborah, if you listen, thank you as well. And it goes back full circle. Um, things don't happen just by chance, Doctor.
Right.
Also,
Right.
it's by knowing you, by knowing Deb. We all can feed off of each other, and that conversation was something that was helpful with you to ultimately talking with Deborah and basically being able to get my mom eventually the help that she needed and everything. So again, Deborah, thank you for that as well.
Well, that's a part of the treasure that I say came up that who would have those kinds of ideas. Deborah is recovering alcoholic, and she has been alcohol free for 30 years, 35 years. How long is it since my brother has passed? What do you
Man, I remember your brother when I was in high school. I thought
I
it was about
know.
94 or so, right?
No.
93,
Yeah, he
94.
passed in 1994 exactly.
That's what I was thinking because
Day after Dodie's birthday.
how I remember your brother is we was trying to open a bottle of champagne. We couldn't do it. We was of course high school teenagers
Right,
and we
right,
had the
right.
farm and I had a bottle of champagne and me and Sage and everybody trying. He said, "Man, give me that." So again, it's just it's beautiful, man. Again, is I didn't get to know Lenny too long, but it was an honor being there to talk to him and be around him. And I remember when he first came to South Carolina, Cedric, again, one of my closest friends brought into my house. Hey, this is my dad, man.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
again, man, it's amazing. Again, no relation to you guys, but you like family, man. I've always been treated like family,
yeah,
so
yeah.
it's a blessing, man.
Well, we go back, man. I tell you, because
Yeah, yeah, we go
I'll
back.
say this, and she can. Your aunt was kind of. Well, I don't know if she was my girlfriend, but I used to like her a lot.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yes, indeed.
yeah.
Yes, indeed. And it was funny because as kids, you kind of express your liking and stuff. You chase girls,
Mm-hmm.
I could never catch her.
Just
This
fast.
girl was super fast, and I thought I was quick, man. I couldn't catch this girl for nothing in the world.
Yes,
So,
sir.
so I liked her, and then of course your family comes from Philadelphia,
Mm-hmm.
and lived there, and my dad's from Philadelphia,
Mm-hmm.
so we used to see each other there. Then we come to South Carolina, we see each other there, and then the family moved all the way down. So
Mm-hmm.
Terry was a dear friend of mine. Nisi, we all hung out, we all did things together, and so
Right.
you essentially are family.
That's what I said. I've always been treated like, and again, it's not a coincidence how everything lines itself up. Again, going back to New York, visiting Tommy, waiting on Billy to the phone call, thinking it's Billy, thinking it's, Billy, I'm about to answer the phone, and here you was on the other end. And again, it's just alignment is a beautiful thing. And again, that's how life works. From your grandmother putting you out to you finding Dr. Scipio to you ultimately finding your calling. And none of those things are a coincidence. And so for everybody listening, sometime again we got to get out of our own way and be able to answer that call. So it comes via alignment, like Dr. Lauren had to face by going to stay with Reverend Scipio. It comes via dreams. It comes via a lot of things. So it's just a lot of times we don't know the way, but you got to have faith, right? That's the
Right.
term faith. I even matters with faith. You got to have faith,
That's
and
right.
you got to have prayer. You got to trust. And for me, I had no idea how I was going to make all this happen to go to college, to ultimately med school, and all that. But God just kept putting people in my path, and again, Dr. Lauren coming to my aid as well. It's a beautiful thing, right? And that's what life is we're put in path and put in position for a reason. And again, it doesn't have to be resources. Sometime again, it could be a lot of things. It could be you just taking time out of your day to be a listening ear for a person
Right.
who might be at their very end of whatever they're dealing with,
Right.
or
Right. Algae,
going through the
algae, algae, algae.
pressure.
Stress. Algae.
Exactly.
By the
Exactly.
way, let me tell you something that you may not know. This is interesting. That telephone call I made, and then I took you around to the various colleges that you were considering
Yes,
here in
sir.
New York City. And I talked to Deborah. I talk to
Mhm,
Deborah every night. I won't talk to her tonight because we're doing the show, so she's go to bed 'cause she gets up very early in the morning. But
mhm.
I had said to her, she said to me, she said, "Do you know who he is?" I said, "Yeah, that's Squeak. That's Cedric's friend." She
Mhm.
said, "No, do you know who his people are?" And I said, "No, I don't." She said, "That's Nisi's son." I said, "Nisi." She said, "Yes, Nisi Hallam's." I said, "That's Nisi's son." Oh my God. And then everything changed. I mean, I would have done it anyway, but
Yeah,
this just
absolutely.
made it even more special because of the close relationships that we've always had with your family.
Absolutely.
You know,
And again, it's
all,
not coincidental, man. Again, you go from New York to South Carolina and those distances, it's a small world, man. It's
yep,
it's a far drive from New York to South Carolina, but you realize how small the world it is.
yep,
For you know who my people are to everything involved. So
yep,
again, I appreciate, man.
yep,
And
yep, yep.
again, it just goes back to what I keep stressing to everybody. So if you don't take anything else from this, again, just know that pain sometimes is associated with growth. And even with a open heart surgery, which I'm not a surgeon, but you ever see one of those things perform, it's gruesome. I mean, literally, you got to saw into the chest and crack the chest bone open. But that's all needed for the heart to expand, right? To be able to open that cavity up so you can get out and put the new one in or whatever you need to do. And
Right,
it's
right.
a gruesome process, but again, it's necessary. And so with life, unfortunately, that's what happens with us. We have to be broken down and pain and all those things. But at the end of it, it's growth, and growth is a catalyst for transformation to be ultimately what we intended to be here on this earth.
You know what's interesting is that I was hired by a headhunter. They called me once, and my job was to go into the hospitals and show them surgeons new equipment to use in the emergency room and in the operating room. And so I had a chance to go into the operating rooms and see all of the equipment that they use to do all these various procedures that they have. And I was looking, I said, this looks like an automotive shop
Mm-hmm.
because the equipment that they use is some heavy duty equipment to do the
Mm-hmm.
work that they've been able to do. And I thank God for that because, they've been able to do some things that we, that benefit us all, really
Right.
benefits us all. By the way, we're almost out of time. Almost out of time. So you
Time
see I'm
flies.
back on the screen there. What I want to do is I want to give you an opportunity to share in any way you want in closing out, and I'm going to close out with something that the Lord has placed on my heart. But I want to in advance. I'm going to say a little bit later, a little bit more later. But I want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule to be with us tonight. I appreciate it. I really appreciate it. I love it when you come. So you're gonna have to look on your calendar and give me another date because I want you to come back. And matter of
Absolutely.
fact, what I think I'll do is I'll bring Brian on too, and we do this as a threesome.
Oh man, yeah. Brian has been, again, I've known him since the well, not junior high days for Brian. But again, it's amazing, and it's always an honor to come on here, man, and just be able to catch up with you, and just overall just to be able to talk. And I hope today was something I said that can ultimately help people as well. Again, is I'm internist, right? So internal medicine is my specialty. You got to spend time in psychiatry as a rotation as well, and
Hmm.
that was one of the things I just wanted to deep dive in on because what happens as humans is we get in our own way with a lot of things. We get hung up on a lot of things. So we have again two ages in life. We have our physiological age, which is our physical age of what we actually are, but then we have our mental age. And
Hmm.
sometimes that mental age might plateau or get hung up on something that happened at a person at 16, but that person might be physically 40, but mentally still stuck at that stage in that
Yep.
16-year-old life, right? Because of whatever trauma that they got involved with. So the biggest thing what I tell people is learn to forgive yourself as well, right? Brene Brown coined the term. Well, didn't really coin the term, but talked about shame versus guilt, right? So
Hmm.
shame is basically I did something bad, whereas guilt wasn't versus guilt versus shame. So guilt is I did something bad, whereas shame is a self belief that I actually am bad.
Right.
So we got to get in the notion of forgiving ourselves, and we have to be able to forgive others. And through that, again, guilt versus shame. So repeat that. So Brene Brown, guilt versus shame. Guilt is I did something bad, but shame is that self belief that I am bad.
Hmm.
And we all are human beings, right? We're human beings by no stretch of imagination. None of us are perfect. We're all flawed. But again, it's okay to have guilt, but don't live in shame, right? Because again, you can have guilt in terms of I did something bad, but don't live in that self belief that I am bad. Don't penalize yourself for that mistake that was done yesterday. It was done 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever that may be. The past is a past. There's absolutely nothing we can do to go back to fix that. But right here in this present moment, live in the present and let's be the best we can be moving forward. Forgiving ourselves, forgiving others, and giving back, and whatever that gift is in this world, making sure we live it within God's purpose.
Well, I thank you so much for that. That's a wonderful summation. And I agree with you. And I hope that's a big takeaway for everybody. So y'all take that and run with it. You know, what always is interesting to me about this story that we read about the Sea of Galilee and the disciples and things like that, that which we looked at in this article, in this devotional, is that the disciples had been with Jesus for quite a while. That day alone, at least in Mark's and Matthew's account, they witnessed him heal a man with a withered hand on the Sabbath, which was illegal. They saw him heal so many people that everyone who was sick tried to push through the crowds just to touch him. They saw so many people gather that there wasn't any more room on the shore for him to sit and teach. They saw him go into a boat so that he could teach that great crowd of people. They heard him teach all those people, telling them parable after parable. They heard him teach like no one had ever taught before. They were given private tutorial lessons even before that. They even heard him rebuke his mother and father and his entire family. Yet when the storm is at its worst, they go to him, wake him from his sleep, and ask, "Teacher, don't you care that we're drowning, that we're perishing?" What happened to all they heard? What happened to all that they had seen? What happened to their faith? Now, before we get the idea that the disciples were wimps, I posed a question tonight that many of y'all avoided answering, but that's another story. If you were in the midst of a severe storm, a tornado, or maybe a hurricane, a physical, financial, or medical crisis, and you went to the creator of all that is, all that was, and all that will ever be, and found him asleep, what would you do? There is an answer. To overcome the fear of storms, you got to get rid of the distractions. Turn off the television, the radio, turn off the computer, turn off the cell phone. Listen to as he commands the winds and the sea and the storms of your life. Peace, be still. Then I want you to think about all of the blessings you've had in your life, all the challenges you've overcome. Reflect on the fact that you are still standing despite your circumstances and your situations. Visualize the victories yet to come. Hold fast to the reality that the man who stilled the water is in your heart and in your life. Be faithful and thankful, knowing that during your most turbulent times, the Lord has always been and will always be on your boat. Then I want you to remember that he promised he would never leave you nor forsake you. He never has, and he never will. Finally, think that the best part of all of this is that the wind and the sea, yes, all of life's storms, obey him. Peace, be still. Now, please don't forget our sponsors and advertisers. The JLR Company, J. Lauren R. Consulting, LLC, for all of your church financial needs. Please, ma'am, please, sir, if you have a need, let us know. We'll be happy to come out and share with you. Just give us a call, 718-757-1527. That's my cell phone. That's my cell phone. Or you can call my office, 718-328-8096. Either way, I will come out and I will be with you and we will have talks. And by the way, last week was estate planning week, for those of you who didn't know. So if you had not done your estate planning, then last week was the time to get it done. And by the way, don't forget, please go to mattersoffaith.blog. That's the blog place. Make sure you subscribe and share that blog so that you can get notified of all of our publications. Whatever we publish, you'll get notification. So go to www.mattersoffaith.blog, hit the subscribe button, put your email address in, you will get a confirmation email. And then once you do that, everything that we publish, you will get notified of. You'll get an email. Please, ma'am, please, sir, we need you to do that. And then Matters of Faith, the book, Matters of Faith, the book. You can get that if you go to www.smashwords.com /books /view /993-177. If you do that, then you will be able to purchase the online book. Now listen to this. There is a 50% discount. The book is $20, but there's a 50% discount if you use the coupon UDATE. If you use the coupon UDATE. So the book is only $10 and you get it immediately. It's on your phone. You can use it. And all this information is on your chat. You can see it. Better Mag Magazine. A 2-year subscription to Better Mag Magazine is only $27.50 for 2 years. So please, ma'am, please, sir, avail yourself of that and come on and join us as we support those who support Matters of Faith. Very important to do that. Very, very important. It's how I'm able to do the work that I do because I have support from people like you. So please, ma'am, please, sir, help us by supporting us. We're not asking you to do anything other than to be supportive of those who are literally supporting Matters of Faith. So that's important. Now, got another one for you. J. Fox and Sons, John J. Fox and Sons Incorporated Funeral Services. They're professional, they're compassionate, and they're family friendly. And they have been serving the Bronx community for 125 years. If you let John J. Fox and Sons serve your family and at your time of need, I promise you, you won't be disappointed. Just give them a call, 718-733-9114. Now, these are site specific, right? This is site specific. You need to be in the Bronx or in New York City. They can go anywhere in New York, but they are here in New York City. So if you're in Tennessee or in Puerto Rico, it won't help you. It won't help you. But if you call them, they'll be happy to see to your needs, and they are really, really, really good at what they do. So please, ma'am, please, sir, avail yourself of their services, John J. Fox and Sons. And then, that sounds like a song. Your focus in your business is on profitability. Your church is on spiritual excellence, and it should be. But if you let E.G. Edwards and Associates handle your accounting and taxation, they will do it with competence and professionalism. Financial services and solutions are just a telephone call away. Just give them a call at 718-949-5181. Let me give that to you again. 718-949-5181. If you do that, I guarantee you, you will be delighted that you did. They are excellent at what they do. And I'm not just talking about it. I'm a client because they do my taxes for me. I don't do my own taxes. I could, but I won't. I could, but I won't because it's too personal for me, and they do a much better job than I can. So please, ma'am, please, sir, avail yourselves of the opportunity and let E.G. Edwards and Associates handle your business because they do it with excellence. Okay? And we good? We good with that? Everybody's good. Perfect, 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 perfect. Now, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share the Matters of Faith YouTube channel and mattersoffaith.blog. I talked about it already, but you know what it is. Telephone, text, email, message, any way you do it, but tell a friend to join us regularly on Monday nights for Matters of Faith, the radio show. We are live on our Matters of Faith YouTube channel. We also drop each episode on our Matters of Faith and J. Lauren Russell Facebook group. So please, ma'am, please, sir, make sure you don't miss a single episode of Matters of Faith because you did not subscribe, like, and share our Matters of Faith YouTube channel, or missed an article or a devotional because you did not subscribe to the mattersoffaith.blog blog. Now, on behalf of my guest, my friend, my brother, Dr. Al Sutton, and myself, always remember that the same command Jesus made to the wind and the sea, he will speak to the storms in your life. Peace, be still. Please join us next week at the same time and at the same place. The Matters of Faith YouTube channel. The article will be published in its usual places. And of course, www.mattersoffaith.blog. Now, if no one has told you this today, let me be the first to say that I love you, and there's absolutely nothing that you can do about it. So get used to it. Now, the Lord bless you, the Lord keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. So to all of you